I was different from the beginning. The other children in our village, they played, they laughed, they chased each other through the narrow paths between the mud brick huts. They threw stones into the Nile. They helped their fathers with fishing nets. They learned the songs their mothers sang. They belonged. I didn't. Not really. Not in the way they did. I watched them from the edge, always from the edge. Not because they excluded me. They tried to include me. They called my name. They waved. They wanted me to join, but I couldn't. Something inside me was always listening, always paying attention to something else, something they couldn't hear. Words. I heard words differently than other children. When the elders spoke around the evening fire, telling stories of our ancestors, I didn't just hear the story. I heard the structure, the rhythm, the way sounds connected to create meaning, the way meaning changed when you shifted a sound just slightly. When I was 6 years old, a merchant caravan came through our village. Egyptians traveling south along the Nile to trade. They spoke a language I had never heard before, harsh sounds, sharp consonants, nothing like the flowing melody of our Nubian tongue. The other children stared, pointed, laughed at the strange sounds, but I listened, really listened, and something inside me, it clicked, like a door opening, like a light being lit in a dark room. I understood, not everything, not completely, but pieces, fragments, enough to know that these sounds had the same purpose as our sounds. They carried meaning. They built bridges between minds. They were language. My mother saw me, standing there, frozen, staring at the Egyptian merchants with an intensity that frightened her. "Khalil," she said softly, "my name, in our language, beautiful, musical. Come away, they are not our people." But I couldn't move. I was transfixed, mesmerized. My mind was racing, grabbing sounds, storing them, connecting them, building patterns I didn't consciously understand, but somehow knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my mat, staring at the darkness, replaying every sound I had heard, every gesture I had seen, every facial expression that accompanied the words, building a map, creating connections, learning. By morning, I could say 3 phrases in Egyptian, badly, with terrible pronunciation, but I could say them. My father heard me practicing, whispering to myself. He stood in the doorway of our small home, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Not anger, not pride. Something else. Something that looked like concern. "Where did you learn that?" he asked. "Yesterday," I said, "from the merchants." He was quiet for a long time. Then he knelt beside me, looked into my eyes. His face was serious, heavy with something I was too young to understand. "This gift you have," he said slowly, "it is dangerous." I didn't understand. How could language be dangerous? Language was beautiful. Language was connection. Language was the most amazing thing I had ever discovered. "Why?" I asked. He touched my face gently. "Because you will always stand between, never fully here, never fully there, always translating, always in the middle. It is a lonely place, my son." I didn't believe him. I was 6 years old. I thought he was wrong. I thought language would bring me closer to people, would help me belong, would make me more. I was wrong. The gift grew rapidly, uncontrollably. By the time I was 10, I spoke 5 languages: Nubian, Egyptian, Greek, Aramaic, and bits of several others. Merchants sought me out. Travelers paid my father to let me translate for them. Egyptian officials started bringing me to their meetings with Nubian village elders. I was useful, valuable, important, and I was alone. The other children stopped inviting me to play, not from cruelty, from distance. I had become something else, something not quite child anymore, not quite Nubian anymore, not quite anything they understood. I spent my days with adults, with foreigners, with people who needed my voice but didn't know my name. I translated their words, their anger, their negotiations, their threats, their promises, their lies. And I became invisible, a tool, a conduit, a bridge that people walked across without noticing it was there. By the time I was 15, I was the official translator for the Egyptian regional administrator. I sat in meetings. I stood in marketplaces. I traveled to villages throughout Nubia. I spoke the words of powerful men. I carried their authority in my voice. But they were never my words, never my authority, never my power. I was just the voice, the echo, the hollow instrument through which meaning passed. My mother watched me growing up too fast, growing distant, growing into something she didn't recognize. She tried to pull me back, tried to remind me where I came from, who I was. "You are Nubian," she would say, holding my face in her hands like my father had done years before. Never forget that. No matter how many languages you speak, no matter how many worlds you walk through, you are my son. You are Nubian. You belong to this earth, this river, these people. I nodded, said yes, said I understood, but inside I was already gone, already standing between, already neither this nor that, already lost. I was 17 when I first realized the true weight of what I did, the true responsibility, the true danger my father had tried to warn me about all those years ago. An Egyptian tax collector came to a village north of Meroe. He stood before the village elders, surrounded by armed guards, and announced a new tax, heavy, crushing, impossible for the villagers to pay. The elders protested, argued, pleaded. They spoke in Nubian, passionate, desperate. Their words were fire. Their words were tears. Their words were the voice of a people being slowly ground down by an empire that saw them as resources to be extracted rather than humans to be honored. I translated, word for word, precisely, accurately. I turned their fire into cold Egyptian administrative language. I turned their tears into logical arguments. I turned their humanity into data. The tax collector listened. His face showed nothing, no emotion, no compassion, no recognition of the suffering before him. When the elders finished speaking, he simply nodded and said, "The tax stands. They will pay, or we will take." The elders looked at me, waiting, hoping I would translate something else, hoping I would soften it, hoping I would help. But I didn't. I translated his words exactly, precisely, coldly, because that was my job, that was my role. I was the bridge. I carried meaning across. I didn't change it. I didn't filter it. I didn't feel it. One of the elders, an old man named Amani, he stared at me. His eyes held something terrible, not anger, not hatred, something worse, disappointment, recognition, like he was seeing clearly what I had become. "You have the voice of our people," he said softly, "but you speak with the heart of strangers." His words hit me like a physical blow. I opened my mouth to respond, to defend myself, to explain that I was just doing my job, just being neutral, just being professional. But I couldn't speak because he was right, completely, devastatingly right. I had stopped being a person and become a function, a service, a tool. I had gained the ability to speak for everyone and lost the ability to speak for myself. That night, I walked along the Nile, alone. The moon was full, the water reflected silver light. Everything was beautiful, peaceful, silent, and I wept for the first time since childhood. I wept for what I had become, for what I had lost, for the terrible, lonely space I inhabited, for the gift that had become a curse, for the bridge that everyone walked across, but no one thanked, no one saw, no one loved. I didn't know how to change, didn't know if I could. I was 17 years old, and I was already lost. 5 years passed. 5 years of translating. 5 years of standing between. 5 years of carrying words that were never mine across distances I couldn't bridge. I was 22. I had a small house on the edge of the Egyptian administrative compound. Not in the compound, not in the Nubian village. Between, always between. Neither Egyptian nor Nubian, neither colonizer nor colonized, neither powerful nor powerless. I was the space in between, the gap that everyone needed but no one wanted to occupy. The Egyptians paid me well. I had good clothes, good food, security, respect of a kind. They valued my skill. They trusted my accuracy. They knew I wouldn't lie to them, wouldn't trick them, wouldn't betray their words. The Nubians, they didn't hate me. Not exactly, but they didn't trust me either. How could they? I worked for the Egyptians. I lived near them. I spoke their language more often than my own. I had crossed over, or so it seemed, but I hadn't. Not really. Because the Egyptians didn't see me as one of them either. I was useful, I was skilled, but I was other, forever other, the Nubian, the native, the one who could never truly understand civilized people, the one who served but never belonged. So I existed in the gap, in the silence between conversations, in the pause between languages, in the space where no one lives except those whose gift or curse is to carry meaning between worlds that don't want to touch. The breaking point came during a negotiation, a serious one. The Egyptian regional governor wanted to expand their quarry operations in Nubian territory. They needed workers, lots of workers, and they wanted the Nubian villages to provide them. The village council refused, firmly, clearly. They needed their men for farming, for fishing, for feeding their families. They couldn't spare workers for Egyptian projects that benefited no one but Egypt. The governor was furious. I could see it in his face, the tightness around his eyes, the way his jaw clenched. He was not accustomed to being refused. He was not accustomed to hearing the word no from people he considered subjects. "Tell them," he said to me slowly, deliberately, "that this is not a request. This is an order. The empire requires workers. The villages will provide workers. This is their duty. This is the law." I opened my mouth to translate, but before I could speak, the chief elder, a woman named Nahanda, strong and fierce and unbreakable, she spoke. "Tell him," she said in Nubian, her voice steady but burning with controlled rage, "that we are not slaves. We are not animals to be commanded. We are people with families, with dignity, with rights that existed long before his empire came here. Tell him we will not send our men to die in his quarries." I looked at her, then at the governor, then back at her, and I translated exactly, precisely, word for word, her fire, his coldness, back and forth, each sentence hitting harder, each exchange growing more hostile, and I stood in the middle, carrying the anger, carrying the contempt, carrying the threat. The governor leaned forward, his voice dropped, became quiet, dangerous. "Tell them that refusal has consequences. Tell them that the empire does not negotiate with subjects. Tell them that they can provide workers willingly, or we will take workers by force. Tell them that their village can cooperate, or their village can be removed. Tell them to choose wisely." I felt my stomach drop. Removed. That word, that terrible word, I knew what it meant. I had seen it before. Villages emptied, people displaced, homes burned, families scattered. I looked at Nahanda, at her strong face, at her proud bearing, at the other elders sitting behind her, at the young men standing at the back of the room, ready to fight, even though fighting would mean death. I opened my mouth to translate, to carry his threat across, to do my job, to be the bridge, and I couldn't. For the first time in my life, I couldn't translate. The words stuck in my throat, caught, refused to come out. The governor looked at me sharply. "Well," he snapped, "what are you waiting for? Translate!" I looked at him, at his expensive robes, at his well-fed face, at his absolute certainty that he was right, that he had the authority, that he could command and be obeyed, at his complete inability to see the people before him as people. I looked at Nahanda, at her weathered face, at her hands that had worked soil for 60 years, at her eyes that held the history of her people, at her absolute certainty that she was defending something worth defending, at her complete inability to understand the massive force arrayed against her, and I realized both of them were trapped in their perspectives, trapped in their languages, trapped in their worlds, and I was the only one who could see both, the only one who stood in the middle, the only one who could. I made a choice, probably the first real choice I had made in years, maybe ever. I spoke, but not in translation, in my own words, from my own mind, with my own heart. "Sir," I said to the governor in Egyptian, "may I speak, not as translator, but as advisor?" He frowned, confused. This was irregular. This was not my role. But he was curious. He nodded. I took a breath. The quarry project requires skilled workers, men who know stone, who understand how to cut and move it without waste. The Nubian men are farmers. They have no experience with quarry work. If you force them, they will be slow, inefficient. Many will be injured or killed. The project will take longer and cost more than you expect. He listened. I could see him calculating. Economics, efficiency, cost, things he understood. However, I continued, if you offer wages, fair wages, and allow men to volunteer for limited periods, you might get skilled workers from the Nubian communities who actually know stone. The villages near the quarries have stonemasons, craftsmen. They might work for gold, for payment, for mutual benefit, not as forced labor, but as employment. I turned to Nahanda, spoke in Nubian. He has the power to take. That is the truth. The empire has soldiers, has weapons, has the ability to destroy any village that resists. That is the reality. Fighting will bring death. Refusal will bring violence. This is certain. I saw pain flash across her face, but she didn't interrupt. She listened. But, I continued, if some of your men volunteer for good payment, for limited time, they can work and return. The young men who want adventure, who want to see beyond the village, who want gold to marry with, let them choose. Let them volunteer. This way, the village survives, families survive, and the empire gets workers, not slaves, workers. I stopped. Silence filled the room, both sides staring at me, and I realized I had just betrayed both of them. The governor by suggesting compromise instead of command, Nahanda by counseling cooperation instead of resistance. Or had I served both of them? Had I found a path that neither could see? Had I built a bridge they could actually walk across? The governor spoke first. "You presume much, translator." "Yes, sir," I said quietly. "I apologize, but I serve truth. And the truth is, force will cost you more than persuasion." He studied me, long and hard, then slowly. He nodded. "Make it so. Offer wages. Volunteers only. But I expect sufficient workers within 1 month." He stood, left the room, dismissed, but not angry, considering. Nahanda looked at me, her expression unreadable. "You think you helped us?" "I tried," I said. "You taught us to submit." "I taught you to survive." She stood, walked toward me, stopped very close, looked into my eyes. "You stand between us and them. And I wonder, Khalil, do you remember which side is home?" She left. The other elders followed. The room emptied. And I stood there, alone, in the middle, where I always was, where I always would be. But something had changed. For the first time, I had spoken. Not translated, spoken, from myself, with my own words, carrying my own meaning, and I didn't know if that was betrayal or awakening. They called me before the regional council. 2 weeks after the negotiation, both Egyptian officials and Nubian representatives, together in the same room, both sides angry. I knew this meeting would come. I had violated protocol, overstepped my role, spoken when I should have remained silent, acted when I should have remained neutral. The Egyptian deputy administrator spoke first. "You exceeded your authority," he said coldly. "You are a translator, not a negotiator, not an advisor, not a policy maker. You translate. That is your function, nothing more." I stood before them, silent, waiting. A Nubian elder spoke, different from Nahanda, younger, angrier. "You pressured our people to cooperate with occupation. You used your knowledge of both languages to manipulate, to trick, to serve Egyptian interests while pretending to help us." Accusations from both sides. I was too involved. I was a traitor. I was breaking the rules. I was dangerous. And they were right about all of it. I had broken the rules. I had exceeded my authority. I had stopped being a tool and become something else. But what? What had I become? The deputy administrator leaned forward. "You will confine yourself to translation, exact translation, word for word, no interpretation, no advice, no personal opinion. Do you understand?" I looked at him, at his narrow face, at his assumption that I was a machine, a function to be controlled, a voice without a mind. I looked at the Nubian elder, at his angry eyes, at his assumption that I had betrayed my people, that I had forgotten where I came from, that I had sold my heritage for Egyptian gold, and I realized they both wanted the same thing. They wanted me to disappear, to be invisible, to serve without existing, to carry meaning without having meaning, to bridge worlds without belonging to any world. They wanted a tool, a useful object, a bridge without a soul. And I couldn't be that anymore. Something had broken, or awakened, or changed. I didn't know which, but I knew I couldn't go back to being invisible. "No," I said quietly. Silence, shocked silence. No one expected that word, that refusal. "No?" the deputy administrator repeated, his voice dangerous. "No?" "No, sir," I said, meeting his eyes. "I don't understand. I don't understand how to translate without understanding. I don't understand how to carry meaning without meaning it. I don't understand how to serve truth while remaining empty." "You serve accuracy," he snapped, "not truth. You carry words, not meaning. You repeat, not interpret." "Then you want a parrot," I said, "not a translator." His face went red, fury. "You forget yourself." "No," I said, and suddenly I was calm, completely calm. I remember myself. For the first time in years, I remember myself. I turned to the Nubian elder. "You think I betrayed my people. But which people? The Nubians who raised me? Or the Egyptians who employ me? Or the Greeks I trade with? Or the Aramaic merchants I translate for? I speak 6 languages. I live between 6 worlds. Which one is my people?" He glared at me. "The one you were born to." "I was born to all of them," I said. "That's the gift. That's the curse. I don't belong to one side. I belong to the space between. I am the bridge. And a bridge doesn't choose sides. A bridge connects them. You are Nubian, he insisted, his voice hard, absolute. I am, I agreed, but I am also more. I contain Egyptian understanding, Greek logic, Nubian soul, Aramaic poetry. I am not one or the other. I am all and none. I am the place where they meet, where they touch, where they can see each other. The deputy administrator stood. This is intolerable. You are dismissed from service. I felt the words hit me. Dismissed, unemployed, useless, my skill, my gift, unwanted. I would have no income, no position, no purpose. And yet I felt free, strangely, impossibly free. If that's what you wish, I said quietly. But before I go, let me tell you both something true, something neither of you want to hear, but both of you need to know. I looked at the Egyptian officials. You will fail here, in Nubia, eventually, completely, not because the Nubians are stronger. They're not. Not because they'll rebel, they won't, but because you cannot hold a people when you don't see them as people. You give orders, you take resources, you impose rules, but you never listen, never understand, never learn, and slowly, gradually, the ground beneath your feet will erode, the bridge will collapse, and you'll fall, because you destroyed the one thing that connected you to these lands, understanding. His jaw clenched, but he didn't interrupt. I turned to the Nubian elder, and you will lose too, not because you're weak, you're not because you don't resist, you do, but because you won't adapt, won't learn, won't find ways to survive that include compromise. You see any cooperation as betrayal, any negotiation as surrender. And slowly, gradually, your villages will empty, your children will leave, your culture will fade, not because Egyptians destroyed it, but because you refuse to let it change, refuse to let it breathe, refuse to build bridges to the future. The room erupted, shouting from both sides, anger, outrage. How dare I speak to them this way? How dare I judge them? How dare I? I raised my voice, louder than I had ever spoken. I dare because I'm the only one who can. I am the only one who sees both. I am the only one who stands in the middle and knows, really knows, what both of you are losing by refusing to hear each other. Silence again. Shocked, absolute. You need me, I said quietly, both of you. You need someone who can carry meaning across, someone who understands more than words, someone who can build bridges you're too proud or too afraid to build yourselves. You need a translator who actually translates, not just words, but souls, perspectives, humanity. The deputy administrator sat down slowly. And you think you're that person. I am that person, I said, whether you employ me or not, whether you accept it or not. I am the bridge. It's what I was born to be. It's what my gift is for, and I can't be anything else. Nahanda spoke. I hadn't seen her enter. She must have been listening from outside. She walked into the room slowly, powerfully, her presence commanding silence. "The boy is right," she said, her voice like stone. "We need bridges. We need understanding. We need someone who can stand in the middle and hold space for both truths. Someone who won't collapse, won't choose, won't disappear into either side. Someone strong enough to remain in between." She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw recognition. Not approval, not agreement, but recognition. She saw what I was, what I had become, what I had always been becoming. "But," she said slowly, "a bridge must serve all who cross it, not just the powerful, not just the rich, not just those who pay. Everyone. That is the price of standing in the middle. You serve all, or you serve none." I nodded. "I understand." "Do you?" she challenged. "Because serving all means sometimes you'll be hated by all. Sometimes you'll satisfy no one. Sometimes you'll be called traitor by everyone. Can you bear that?" I thought about it, really thought. Could I bear being hated, being rejected, being alone, forever alone, in the space between? "Yes," I said finally, "because the alternative is to let worlds stay separate, to let misunderstanding grow into hatred, to let fear grow into violence, to let the gap become a chasm that swallows everyone." She smiled, barely, sadly. "Then you are a bridge, a true bridge, and may the gods give you strength to bear the weight of all who will walk across you." She turned to the Egyptian officials. "I propose we keep him, but under different terms. He translates, but he also advises. He carries words, but he also carries wisdom. He serves both sides equally, and his payment comes from both. Egyptian gold and Nubian grain. He lives between. He serves between. He belongs to between." The deputy administrator looked at her, at me, at the situation that had somehow shifted beneath his feet. Finally, reluctantly, he nodded. "Agreed, but he serves truth, not politics, not loyalty. Truth. If I ever suspect he's manipulating, serving one side, lying—" "You won't," I said, "because a bridge doesn't lie. It just connects." 10 years passed. 10 years of standing in the middle. 10 years of serving both. 10 years of being the bridge. It wasn't easy. It was never easy. Some days I satisfied everyone. Many days I satisfied no one. Some people grew to trust me. Others never did. I was called traitor by both sides at different times. Sometimes by both sides on the same day. But something grew, slowly, gradually, almost invisibly. Understanding, not complete, not perfect, but real. Egyptian officials began asking me about Nubian customs, not to mock, to understand, to avoid accidental offense, to build better relationships. They learned that Nubians weren't backward, they were different, and difference wasn't deficiency, it was difference. Nubian elders began asking me about Egyptian law, not to submit, to navigate, to find space within the system, to protect their people. They learned that Egyptians weren't all monsters. Some were just people, doing jobs, following orders, trying to survive their own system, and I I learned from both. I learned Egyptian efficiency, their organization, their ability to plan and build and coordinate on massive scales. I learned their writing system, their architecture, their philosophy of order and structure. I learned Nubian resilience, their connection to land, their ability to adapt and survive and maintain identity even under pressure. I learned their oral traditions, their relationship to river and desert, their philosophy of flow and respect, and slowly I realized I wasn't torn between two worlds. I contained two worlds. Both lived inside me. Both had value. Both had wisdom. Both had truth. There was a day, I remember it clearly, when I was sitting on the bridge, the actual physical bridge that crossed a small tributary of the Nile. Stone bridge, built by Egyptians with Nubian labor, a symbol of the complicated relationship between the two peoples. I was sitting there at sunset, watching the water flow, and a young boy approached me. Nubian boy, maybe 8 years old, curious eyes, fearless the way children are. "Are you the bridge man?" he asked. I smiled. "I suppose I am." "What's it like?" he asked. "Standing in the middle all the time?" I thought about it. How to explain to a child what I had learned over 30 years, how to capture the loneliness and the purpose and the strange peace of occupying the space between. "It's like being the river," I said finally. "The river doesn't belong to either shore. It touches both. It serves both. It carries things from one side to the other. It never stops moving, never stops connecting, and it's essential. Without the river, both shores would be just separate lands. With the river, they become related, connected, part of the same story." He thought about that, then asked, "But doesn't the river want to be the shore? Want to be solid? Want to belong?" "Maybe," I admitted. "Sometimes. But the river can't be the shore. That's not what a river is for. The river is for flowing, for connecting, for bringing life to both sides. If the river stopped flowing and became solid, it wouldn't be a river anymore. It would just be stuck water, useless, dead." He nodded slowly. Then he asked the question I had asked myself 10,000 times. "Don't you get lonely?" I felt the question in my chest, in my throat. Yes, God, yes, I got lonely every day, every night, living in the space between, never fully home anywhere, never fully understood by anyone, never able to explain to people on either shore what it felt like to live in the current, to be the flow, to be the connection. But I didn't tell him that. I told him something else, something I had learned, something true. "Yes," I said, "but I'm lonely with purpose, and that's different from being lonely without it. I'm alone, but I'm not useless. I'm separate, but I'm not disconnected. I serve, I connect, I matter, and that makes the loneliness bearable." He smiled, thanked me, ran off to join his friends who were playing nearby, and I watched him go, watched him belong to his group, his people, his world, and I felt not jealousy, not anymore, just recognition. That was his gift, belonging, This was mine, bridging different gifts, different purposes, different lives, all necessary, all valuable, all true. An Egyptian merchant approached me later that day. Older man, kind eyes. He had worked with me for years, trusted me, even liked me, as much as anyone could like the bridge they walked across. "Khalil," he said, sitting beside me on the bridge, "I want to thank you." I looked at him surprised. People used me. People needed me. But they rarely thanked me. Bridges don't get thanked. They get walked on. "For what?" I asked. "For teaching me to see," he said simply. "Before I met you, before you translated for me, I saw Nubians as obstacles, problems, foreigners, people in my way. But you made me hear them, really hear them, not just their words, their humanity, their reasons, their dignity. And now when I trade here, I don't see obstacles. I see people, partners, humans like me trying to live and feed their families and find meaning. You did that. You built that bridge in my mind." I felt something in my chest. Warmth, recognition. This was why. This was the purpose. This was what made the loneliness bearable. One mind at a time, one heart at a time, one bridge at a time, building connections that would outlast me, that would spread beyond me, That's the work, I said quietly. That's what a bridge does. It doesn't force people to cross. It just makes crossing possible, makes it easier, makes it available. What people do with that, that's their choice. He nodded, stood, thanked me again, walked away. And I sat there, on the stone bridge, watching the sunset paint the Nile in gold and purple, watching the water flow eternally between shores that would never touch. Without the river, watching the birds fly from one side to the other without even thinking about boundaries or borders or the impossible spaces between. And I understood. Finally, completely. I had spent decades thinking I was cursed, thinking my gift was a burden, thinking I was broken because I couldn't belong. But I wasn't broken. I was shaped for purpose, shaped to fit the gap, shaped to be the bridge. The Egyptians taught me structure, order, planning, the value of systems and laws and organization, the ability to build things that last, to coordinate across distances, to create stability. They taught me that civilization requires effort, requires thought, requires conscious construction. The Nubians taught me soul, resilience, adaptation, the value of tradition and memory and rootedness, the ability to survive what seeks to destroy you, to bend without breaking, to maintain identity under pressure. They taught me that humanity requires connection, requires earth, requires remembering where you came from, and I became the place where structure met soul, where order met flow, where construction met adaptation, where Egyptian met Nubian, where different worlds touched and learned they could coexist, could enrich each other, could be more together than separate. I was 37 years old. I had spent most of my life in the space between, and for the first time, I didn't want to be anywhere else. I didn't want to be fully Egyptian, didn't want to be fully Nubian. I wanted to be exactly what I was, the bridge, the connector, the the space where understanding happened. That night, I wrote something. The first time I had written anything that wasn't translation work. My own words, my own thoughts, my own voice. I wrote, "A bridge is not torn between two shores. A bridge is the relationship between two shores. Without the bridge, they are separate. With the bridge, they are connected. The bridge doesn't belong to either shore. The bridge belongs to the connection itself. And that is enough. That is everything." I kept that paper, carried it with me, read it when the loneliness became too heavy, when people on both sides called me traitor, when I wondered if anyone understood what I did, what I was, what I sacrificed. I read those words and remembered. This is purpose. This is meaning. This is home. Not a place, but a function, a service, a gift given back to the world that gave me this strange ability to hear and speak and understand across the gaps that separate human from human. I am 53 years old now. My hair is gray. My hands shake slightly when I write. My eyes need more light than they used to. My body is aging, wearing down, becoming fragile. But my purpose remains strong, clear, unshakable. I am the bridge, and the bridge serves as long as it can, until it cannot. And then the bridge becomes a memory, a teaching, a path for others to follow. I have students now, young people, some Nubian, some Egyptian, some mixed heritage, young people who have the gift of tongues, who hear language like music, who understand structure like mathematics, who want to serve, who want to connect, who want to be bridges. I teach them differently than I was taught. I don't teach them to be invisible. I don't teach them to be tools. I don't teach them to disappear into the words they carry. I teach them to be present, conscious, purposeful. I teach them that being a bridge is not about emptying yourself. It's about filling yourself with both sides until you contain enough to hold space for connection. There is a young woman. Her name is Amanarinas, half Nubian, half Greek, born in the gap, born to bridge. She has the gift even stronger than I did at her age. She hears language like poetry, sees patterns like art, understands people like she can see into their souls. She came to me 3 years ago, 16 years old, angry, lost, feeling torn between her mother's people and her father's people, belonging to neither, hated by both for being mixed, for being between. I recognized her immediately because she was me. 37 years younger, same gift, same curse, same confusion about what it all meant, why she couldn't just belong, why she had to live in the lonely space between worlds. I told her what I wish someone had told me when I was young, when I was suffering, when I thought I was broken. "You are not torn," I said. "You are whole. You contain both. That is not division. That is capacity. You can hold more than people who belong to only one world. You can understand more, see more, connect more. You are not broken. You are built for bridging." She cried. I let her. Sometimes you need to grieve the belonging you'll never have before you can celebrate the purpose you do have. It's lonely, she said through tears. No one understands. No one sees me. They just use me, want me to translate, want me to help them, but no one wants to know me. I know, I said gently. I know, and I won't lie to you. It will always be lonely. The bridge is always alone, always separate, always between. But I paused, made sure she heard this, really heard it. But you serve something bigger than yourself. You make possible something that wouldn't exist without you. Understanding, connection, peace. Not perfect peace, not complete understanding, but more than there was. More than there would be if you weren't here. That has to be enough. That has to matter, because it's all there is. She looked at me with eyes full of pain and hope mixed together. Is it enough for you? Yes, I said, and I meant it. It's enough. Some days barely, some days abundantly, but always enough. Now she works with me, learns from me, and she's better than I was, faster, more intuitive, more fearless. She speaks her own words when translation isn't enough. She builds bridges I never thought to build, between Greek merchants and Nubian craftsmen, between Egyptian scholars and Nubian priests, between young people of different worlds who want to find common ground. She is the future, she and the others I'm training. They will carry this work forward when I'm gone, when my voice fails, when my mind loses its sharpness, when the bridge of my body finally collapses. But the work will continue, because the gap will always exist. Cultures will always need to communicate. People will always need help understanding each other. And there will always be people, special people, strange people, lonely people, who have the gift of standing in the middle and holding space for connection. Last month, I stood on the actual bridge again, the stone bridge where I sat when the boy asked me what it was like to be the bridge man. The bridge has aged like I have. Stones wearing down, mortar cracking, but still standing, still serving, still letting people cross from one shore to another without thinking about the impossible gap beneath their feet. An old woman crossed, Nubian, carrying a basket of vegetables to sell at the Egyptian market. She didn't look at the bridge, didn't thank it, just walked across, used it, moved on with her life. And I smiled, because that's what a bridge is for. Not to be noticed, not to be thanked, just to serve, to be there, to make possible what would otherwise be impossible. A young Egyptian official crossed the other direction, carrying documents, going to a meeting in a Nubian village. 30 years ago, that meeting wouldn't have happened, couldn't have happened. The gap was too wide, the distrust too deep. But now it's normal, expected, part of how things work. I did that, me and others like me. We built that bridge, not the stone one, the other one, the invisible one, the one made of understanding and trust and countless conversations translated with care and wisdom and love. That bridge will outlast me, will outlast the stone one beneath my feet, will outlast everyone living today, because Once you build understanding, once you create connection, once you bridge the gap between peoples, it becomes permanent. It gets passed down, generation to generation, story to story, heart to heart. My mother died 10 years ago. I was with her at the end, holding her hand, and she looked at me with eyes that had watched me my whole life, watched me struggle, watched me suffer, watched me finally find peace in my purpose. "My son," she whispered, "the bridge." "Yes, Mother," I said, "the bridge." "I'm sorry," she said. "Sorry it was so hard. Sorry you were so lonely. Sorry you couldn't belong." I squeezed her hand gently. "Don't be sorry. You gave me life. The universe gave me purpose. I lived it. I served it. I mattered." She smiled. "Yes, you mattered. You connected what was separate. You built what didn't exist. You were loved. Even if you didn't always feel it, you were loved by everyone you helped, everyone you served, everyone who walked across the bridge you became." Those were her last words to me. You were loved. And I choose to believe her. Choose to believe that service is a form of love, that bridging is a form of connection, that standing alone in the middle is still standing for something. I don't know how much longer I have. Years maybe, could be less. The body ages, the bridge weakens, eventually it falls. That's the nature of physical things. They end, but the work doesn't end. Amanarina's will continue it, and her students will continue it, and their students, on and on, forever. As long as there are gaps between peoples, as long as there is misunderstanding, as long as there is need for connection, there will be bridges, human bridges, standing in the middle, serving both sides, containing multitudes, making possible the impossible. This is my legacy, not wealth, not power, not fame, not belonging, but connection, understanding, the countless invisible threads that bind human to human across the gaps that separate us, the bridge that lets us touch, lets us see, lets us know we're not so different after all. I wrote something today for my students, for future translators, for anyone who finds themselves standing between worlds and wondering if they're broken. I wrote this: you are not a tool, you are a bridge. And a bridge is not a passive thing. A bridge is active, purposeful, strong. A bridge chooses to stand, chooses to bear weight, chooses to connect. This is sacred work. This is holy work. This is the work of making the world smaller, bringing it together, weaving it into something whole. You will be lonely. You will be misunderstood. You will be called traitor by people who can't see beyond their own shore. You will wonder if it's worth it, if anyone sees you, if anyone knows the weight you carry. But I see you, I know you, and I tell you, it's worth it. Every lonely moment, every misunderstanding, every sacrifice, it's worth it, because you are building something that will outlast you. Understanding that will ripple forward. Connections that will bear fruit for generations. You are the bridge. Stand strong. Stand true. Stand between. And know that you are loved by everyone who crosses, by everyone who benefits, by everyone who learns to see the other shore not as foreign, but as connected, as part of the same river, the same story, the same human family. Stand, bridge, stand. The world needs you. Both shores need you. And you need this purpose, this service, this holy, lonely, essential work of connecting worlds. The sun is setting now, painting the Nile in colors that have no names, gold and purple and something else. Something that exists between colors, between definitions, between worlds, like me, like all bridges, like everyone who chooses to stand in the gap and hold space for connection. I am the bridge. I have always been the bridge. I will always be the bridge until the stones of my body crumble, until the mortar of my mind gives way, until I fall. And even then, I will have been the bridge. And that is enough. That is everything. That is the answer to the question I asked myself when I was young and suffering and lost. Why am I different? Why can't I belong? Why must I live between? Because the gap needs crossing. The shores need connecting. The worlds need bridging. And you are shaped for this, built for this, born for this, not cursed, chosen, not broken, complete, not torn, whole. You are the bridge between worlds. Stand, serve, connect, and know. You matter more than you'll ever know, to everyone who crosses, to everyone who learns, to everyone who discovers. We're all connected by bridges, by service, by love. The bridge remains even when the bridge builder falls. The bridge remains forever, connecting, serving, standing between.